Into my lighter. He hopes frail. How's everyone doing? Yep, we gotta get hit in couple of days with the storm. There was another secret chord, but David there, he pleased the Lord. The David was the beauty of it through you. And it goes like this. Before the fifth. You compose me, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. 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 Then any needed proof was David down. Go through you. And he knows of them. Let's see how long. The battlefield compose me. Hallelujah. I can't breathe, I'm waiting for the exhale. It's no love, cause over. It's no lie.
This little boy was at the bowl.
Just killing me something awfully. Yeah, this is a for real. Yeah. You're going to pieces. You're gonna. I know I can be the only one. I'm about to restart. Oh, hi, that one person. I know I can't be the only one. Then they leave. Wow, 2 hours ago. Let's listen to this news.
Pause and reflect for those who are injured, and our prayers and our love to all of those who have paid the ultimate price of losing their life in New York City. We will be providing clergy care throughout the coming days. And I want to also recognize and thank Commissioner Keith Howard for providing the support. And also now I'll turn over to A.T. Mitchell-Mann, who will have some comments.
Good morning. A.T. Mitchell-Mann, again from Man Up Incorporated, one of the crisis management system organizations in Brooklyn, New York, a part of the citywide crisis management system. I'm here joined by other fellow colleagues of mine alongside the system, as well as my colleagues here in government. And I'm speaking on behalf of the community at large in Brooklyn right now, and not the entire city. I'm more than sure, as folks woke up this morning, everyone heard the sad news that we were very taken aback because this summer has been relatively going quite well.
Don't forget to hit that like button. I'm good.
Things that community has been doing. But this morning we woke up to the sad news, and it made us really question.
It just helps the algorithm when you hit that like button. I appreciate it.
In some cases, and we are outraged. You know, the community is outraged. This is a mass shooting, just as the mayor spoke about, similar to when we were together back in 2019, that took place in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And our community's response and our position is just the same. We will be denouncing this incident. We're denouncing senseless violence. We do not, think that this is a way that one needs to resolve their conflicts if that's what they chose to do. But now we step aside and we allow for our colleagues in the police department to do their job. But we have been, as a system, we've been responding ever since the call has been made. Our hospital responders are, as the mayor mentioned, on location at the hospitals right now, working with the families. Our men and women who are violence interrupters are also at work right now. As said, trying to prevent any forms of retaliation.
8 people shot in Brooklyn.
And so we are going to do our part.
3 people died.
That's
so sad.
My condolences to the families of those that lost, and also to the family members who are recovering at the hospital. But this is a mass shooting. This happens, as you said, this is the second one in a couple of weeks. So mass shootings require mass resources. And so we look to go into that area, Crown Heights, and to be able to pour those resources within that area. And we're looking forward to everybody else's collaboration going forward. Thank you.
Commissioner, you mentioned gang related. Can you identify the gangs involved in this, and can you also speak to if this was a planned attack or if these were just two groups who came across each other?
So I'm not going to provide that information now. I'm going to let the investigators work it. But I want to say approximately 60% of our shootings in New York City are gang related. And so we really see gangs driving so much of the violence in New York City. And a lot of our work in bringing the shooting numbers down so far this year has been because of our relentless focus on guns and gangs. And as the mayor said, we're certainly not going to let up now.
We know if these victims are innocent victims.
Oh, school back in
and
session.
Also, I know you can't discuss too much about motive, but do we believe this gang, that there are
That's cool.
teenagers involved in this gang?
So again, I'm not going to speak more about the gang motivation.
Because you start school in August.
But yes, we have reason to believe that some of the victims were involved in the shooting incident. But again, that is
School
preliminary.
don't start here till September.
For innocent victims here.
There have to have been innocent victims here, yes.
Security at the door? I mean, how did 4 guys come in?
After the day after Labor Day, or 2 days.
Yep, the club did have bouncers, and we are working now to identify those bouncers and interview them.
Rival gangs, the multiple.
As I said, I'm not going to comment more on the gang relation here. But anytime we have gang violence, we always immediately think about retaliation and how we plan for that.
That's good. You're a good student then. You study hard.
It's CNN.
News out of New York. Police are searching for up to 4 suspects who they say opened fire inside a Brooklyn lounge, killing 3 people and wounding 9 others. According to officials, the mass shooting happened around 3:30 in the morning after a gun-related dispute. CNN's Lee Waldman is here with the very latest. Lee.
Fred, NYPD is saying that they believe this is a gun-related or a gang-related incident. Rather, no one's in custody as of yet. The New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch saying that they believe some of those victims could be involved in the shooting itself. Others may just be bystanders involved. Here's what we know. This happened at Taste of the City in Brooklyn's Crown Heights neighborhood around 3:30 this morning. 12 people were shot in total. 3 people were killed. Police not releasing their names as of yet, but said that they are all men ages 19, 27, and 35.
So you think if you study, you get like an A plus?
Those other shooting victims are expected to survive their injuries. Police recovered more than 40 shell casings from 9mm and .45 caliber weapons at that scene there. They also recovered a gun, but they are not saying just yet if that gun is related to this shooting at this point. Right now, police are looking for up to 4 suspects, and the police commissioner Jessica Tisch saying regardless of the shooting that happened earlier this morning, that shootings in the city are down.
We have the lowest number of shooting incidents and shooting victims 7 months into the year that we've seen on record in the city of New York. Something like this is, of course, thank God, an anomaly, and it's a terrible thing that happened this morning, but we're going to investigate and get to the bottom of what went down.
And the shooting this morning comes on the heels of 2 others that we've seen this summer. One in Times Square earlier this month that left 3 people hurt. Another in July. 4 people were killed in Midtown Manhattan, including an off-duty NYPD officer.
I remember that.
All right. Lee Waldman, thanks so much.
It's CNN.
News out of New York. Police are searching for up to 4 suspects who they say opened fire inside a Brooklyn lounge,
6 hours straight,
killing
I
3.
watch the same thing. Even if you get 100 questions, oh hi Christina. I'm good. Well, let's watch this. Or listen
Of
to it, yeah,
fentanyl
guys.
pills, or about 160,000 pills. Now, one pill is a hit. One pill.
Wow.
But understand, we had 160,000 hits. But that's not enough. The good dealers will tell you when you buy these fentanyl pills that, hey, if your body's not used to it, don't take more than a half pill, or we suggest you start with a quarter of a pill because it'll kill you. Now, your drug dealer's telling you that you should start with a quarter pill because if you're not an experienced doper, it'll kill you. Then move up to a half pill and then a full pill. These pills are pressed in Mexico. There's no quality control over this. So you don't know how powerful this pill is.
Very powerful.
But 160,000 pills. Now, this Jalisco operation was totally separate. It was not pills. This Jalisco operation was all powder or bricked up. And it also came from traffickers out of Mexico, not related to the pill side. And the investigations started and proceeded when we, let me get to past my notes here, because we took the Sinaloa group off, and then we started working on April 2025 on the powdered operation. And we worked from Alberto Diaz. He flew from California to Tampa to Bartow. And he brought drugs. He was a transport guy. Oh, by the way, he brought his daughter with him.
Ooh.
The two of them were involved in transport. We learned that they transported for the Jalisco operation and also picked up money. We found out that Gloria Trujillo Duque, who's 44, from Atlanta, she brought 5 kilos that originated in Mexico. She came from Atlanta, and she was the money person for the cartel. Her job was to do the finance. Keep in mind that in addition to that, we had a cousin to Miguel who brought 5 kilos in. She's the only one that's on an immigration hold for violating her permit to come 25 miles inside the U.S. border. Somehow, when she ended up here, we calculated she was just a little past her 25-mile limit.
Wow.
On April 28th, we got 5 kilos from Mexico. And how are they delivering it to us? In batteries. You see the pictures?
That's dangerous.
And it's in the battery. That's right. So when you see someone on the side of the road, maybe putting a new battery in their car, you think to yourself, they've got a bad battery. They had to get another one. Well, what we know is 5 kilos of fentanyl will go in this battery. Now, let me tell you this. The battery still works, okay? So they rigged the battery so that it cranks the car. It actually works. And then they just take the battery out, deliver the battery to you. You think it's a bad battery. They're going to take it in to exchange it. They put another battery in the car. Well, in fact, they've delivered 5 kilos
of drugs.
May 24th, we take a delivery in Auburndale. The Auburndale police were vital in this operation.
Oh, I got rid of it. It was annoying.
And we seized another 29 pounds of pure fentanyl. Let me say that again. 29 pounds of pure fentanyl. So between the two operations and the different deliveries of the drugs, we loop all of these folks in as either couriers of the drugs or financiers to pick up the money or transport people. And we seized a total of 64 pounds. 64 pounds.
Of fentanyl.
Of fentanyl in these two operations.
Wow.
That's enough to overdose and kill 14.5 million people. Let me say that again. Our detectives and our agents from the federal, the state, and the local level potentially save the lives of up to 14.5 million people.
That's a lot of people.
Or think of it this way. We seized enough drugs to overdose and kill everyone in the state of Ohio, or everyone in the state of Pennsylvania,
Wow.
or everyone in the state of Illinois, and have drugs to kill people left over. So when you look at these undercover agents that risk their lives in doing these types of operations, and then you see it as a risk to their life just to handle this stuff, let alone the violence and the guns and all the other issues they have to traverse in a high-level, large-scale investigation. You understand why our detectives and our agents from the state and the federal government are simply the very best. So will they ever get the appropriate thanks for saving lives? Absolutely not.
14.5.
But the reality is, while there's 340,000 people that died because these people were greedy and wanted money, and they didn't care that you died between 2018 and 2023, we know an immeasurable amount of people would have died with this 64 pounds of drugs that these people brought, and they didn't care about you or your loved ones or your children, but we did. And that's why people are alive today, because of the work that our folks did. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with me today. First and foremost, I would like to wish everyone a happy new year, and to say that we...
Wow, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of drugs they might have.
Every American owes a slice of a massive bill, whether they know it or not. The U.S. national debt has hit a staggering $37 trillion, and it is still climbing, thanks to new legislation that could tack on trillions more. Compared to that, your credit card balance looks like pocket change. But what does having this huge amount of debt even mean? How does it even affect us? And would paying it off fix the problems in the economy? Or could it actually make things worse? We're looking into the world's biggest IOU on today's episode of the Infographic Show. What if the U.S. paid off its $37 trillion debt? To understand how to fix the debt, it's important to understand why we have it in the first place. There is an easy answer. Lots and lots of government spending without enough tax money coming in to cover it all. And there's a more complicated answer, and that involves what the U.S. is spending government money on and why. First of all, the U.S. budget is divided into mandatory and discretionary spending. In 2024, about 47% of discretionary spending, or 14.8% of the total government budget, was diverted to spending on defense. Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, put total defense spending at $997 billion, while the congressional budget priced it in at $850 billion.
Wow,
Some items the SIPRI counts as defense spending, the CBO puts elsewhere in the budget. Just how massive is $37 trillion? Well, it's more than the combined defense budgets of the next 9 biggest military spenders, including China, which only spent $314 billion that same year. The U.S. drops a fortune on defense to stay the world's top military power. But that is not even the country's biggest expense. It is just the biggest slice of discretionary spending, the part of the budget that Congress votes on each year. In 2024, some of the biggest ticket items were Social Security, which totaled 22% of the total budget, $1.5 trillion, and Medicare, which was 12% of the budget at $839 billion. But Social Security falls under mandatory spending, which Congress legislates every so often for many years at a time. Mandatory spending is 2/3 of the annual budget, more or less depending on the year. The upside to mandatory spending is that it doesn't have to conform to pre-established budget limits set by Congress, as discretionary spending does. Well, it is supposed to, at least. Rather, programs that fall under mandatory spending usually have certain rules for who qualifies, and whoever does gets the money or benefits offered by the government. So in times of recession or any other national crisis, Congress doesn't have to scramble to suddenly allocate a lot more money to people. Instead, the people who need the government's help can get it immediately. The downside is there is no telling how much the government will end up spending on those programs. The second biggest item, Medicare, falls under mandatory spending as well, while the Pentagon, which is discretionary, comes in third. Well, Medicare is usually the second biggest item on the U.S. budget. In 2024, there was a slight shift as the second biggest outlay in the U.S. budget ended up being interest payments on the national debt to the tune of $881 billion. Considering total U.S. government spending that year was $6.8 trillion, that means interest payments totaled almost 13% of the entire budget. And the Congressional Budget Office thinks that that number is going to get much worse. In 2025 alone, the CBO believes interest payments will total $952 billion. And by 2034, they could go up to as much as $1.7 trillion. Now, if you think this is a worst-case scenario projection, we have bad news. That is actually a decent-case scenario projection. The CBO forecast is based on the assumption that short-term interest rates will not only stay low, but fall. If interest rates stay steady, or worse yet, rise, the U.S. will end up paying a lot more in interest costs. But how did the U.S. run up this enormous $37 trillion debt in the first place? In a very straightforward sense, the U.S. has accumulated an enormous debt by spending way more than it brings in each year. Some argue that it's because of lower tax rates, particularly for the richest Americans. Others say it's because of massive government spending, and both are kind of right. Because the U.S., like many Western countries, has an aging problem, Social Security payments have been increasing, while the labor force to sustain them is shrinking relative to the population. People are having fewer children and living longer than ever thanks to medical advancements. The U.S. population's median age increased from 30 in 1980 to 38.9 in 2022. Americans aged 65 and older, those who qualify for Social Security, are projected to increase from 58 million in 2022 to 82 million in 2050. That's an increase of 47%. On the other hand, according to the Pew Research Center, the U.S.'s working age population, age 18 to 64, will grow from 186 million in 2005 to 255 million in 2050. This is only a 37% growth over a much bigger period of time, and that represents a smaller rate of growth than that of the overall population. And there is one huge issue with that projection. Roughly 82% of the expected population growth is projected to come from immigration, not births. And that means if future policies restrict immigration, even this already slow growth in the working age population could stall out completely. If that happens, that is bad news for Social Security. There will be fewer workers paying in, more retirees cashing out, and a system under serious strain. Government spending in the last 2 decades also increased dramatically because of back-to-back crises in recent U.S. history, including the 2008 financial collapse and the 2020 pandemic recovery. In both cases, the administrations at the time passed massive stimulus packages to keep citizens and businesses financially afloat. In response to the financial crisis, the $700 billion Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, was passed to stabilize financial institutions, and there was also the $787 billion American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or ARRA, for aid, tax cuts, and infrastructure. According to USAspending.gov, since 2020, $4.7 trillion has been spent in response to the pandemic. This is a combination of funding for multiple agencies, including small businesses, labor, veterans affairs, and health programs, to name just a few. While government spending has surged to handle new programs and crises, taxes have steadily declined. In the early 1950s, the top marginal tax rate was 91%, meaning income above a certain threshold, about $200,000 then, or $2 million today, was taxed at that rate. But thanks to deductions and loopholes, the top 1% paid an effective tax rate of just 42%. In the early 2020s, the top marginal tax rate decreased to 37%, but the effective tax rate, the amount that the top 1% actually paid after deductions and loopholes, decreased 26 to 28%. So at times when the U.S. government has needed money the most, it has been getting less than usual. In 2024, when the U.S. government spent $6.8 trillion, it brought in a total tax revenue of $4.9 trillion, a deficit of $1.9 trillion. This equates to spending an amount equal to 23.4% of GDP, while only bringing in an amount equal to only 17.1% of GDP. This spending to GDP ratio is important, for reasons we'll get into very soon. Even a third grader could look at those two numbers and realize that there is a problem, but it hardly started last year. From 1975 to 2024, the U.S. averaged a budget deficit of around 3.8%. But in 2020, that number skyrocketed to its highest level at 14.7%, driven by emergency spending during the pandemic to support individuals and businesses through lockdowns. And while deficits are the norm, there were rare moments of surplus, like under President Clinton when the economy was booming. The U.S. actually ran a 0.8% surplus in 1998, 1.3% in 1999, and 2.3% in 2000. The late 90s were arguably the last time the world didn't feel like it was on fire. The problem is the debt to GDP ratio has been accelerating exponentially in the last 15 years. In 2009, it increased to 75.8% in order to fight the last major financial crisis. While 75.8% might sound like an insanely high ratio, you should know that in 2012, the debt to GDP ratio hit 93.65%, and the debt to GDP ratio in 2024, according to Trading Economics, was 124.3%. So let's just pay it down then. Let's start saving, making extra payments, whatever's necessary. Because right now the debt stands at around $106,637 per person in the U.S., which we're gonna bet is more than the average U.S. person has in their bank account. Well, believe it or not, back in the optimistic days of 2000, people felt that there was a very real possibility of the U.S. debt eventually being paid off. Perhaps even as early as 2012. There had been a budget surplus for 3 years, and the total debt at the time was around $5.67 trillion, minimal and seemingly manageable compared to today's debt. But when economists started to model what might happen if the entire U.S. debt was paid off, the results were kind of catastrophic. And not just for the U.S., but for the entire world. Because like a shopaholic, the U.S. kind of needs that debt to function, since it's tied to U.S. Treasury bonds. Treasury bonds are currently considered one of the safest investments in the world. So safe, in fact, that banks all over the globe buy hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Treasury bonds. They're considered a great place to hold money without losing it, and making some interest along the way. And not only banks all over the world, but institutions in the U.S. as well. Because as it turns out, over 2/3 of public U.S. debt is held by domestic groups, totaling $20.3 trillion in holdings at the end of December 2024. These holders include the Federal Reserve, the largest holder of public debt overall, with $4.5 trillion held by them. And there's also mutual funds and pension funds, including Social Security, state and local governments, and insurance companies. In fact, Social Security is another big holder of national debt, almost $3 trillion of it. Because the money they get from workers and employers is invested into Treasury securities, they can earn interest and be kept safe until the people need to collect their Social Security payments. The largest foreign holders of U.S. debt include Japan, $1.062 trillion of U.S. debt, China, $759 billion, and the UK at $723 billion. It makes sense for the Federal Reserve to own most U.S. debt, as the Fed's job is to manage prices and inflation. It partly does this by controlling the supply of money via holding Treasury securities and determining interest rates. Within the U.S. itself, the interest rates on many things essential to a modern, well-functioning economy, like mortgage rates, are also tied to Treasury bonds interest rates. Basically, the Fed buys and sells Treasury securities to achieve a certain federal funds rate that they have targeted, which is the interest rate at which banks lend to each other to meet their reserve requirements. The federal funds rate then becomes an unofficial minimum interest rate that each bank could set for their own loans to consumers and businesses. So basically, when you buy Treasury securities, you're buying off a piece of the U.S. debt. You are betting on the fact that the U.S. economy will stay strong and the country will keep on making its payments and not default. So if you pay off the national debt, you do away with Treasury securities entirely. You'll soon see why this is a much bigger problem than you think. But we first have to point out that there are definitely some upsides to paying off the debt. Most importantly, the U.S. could use that $881 billion that it pays in interest for other things, like schools, roads, and better social programs for its citizens. High national debt doesn't just hurt government balance sheets, it hits businesses too. As debt rises, interest rates follow, making it more expensive to borrow money. According to the Congressional Budget Office, for every $1 increase in the federal deficit, private investment drops by an average of 33 cents, with the range going as high as 50 cents depending on the industry. Paying down the debt wouldn't just balance the books, it could unlock a surge in business growth and investment across the country.
That's why I tell
As
people not
Stephen
to
Kyle,
talk about their
Associate
age
Professor
here.
of Applied Economics and Management at Cornell University, says, if government debt gets bigger and bigger, interest rates are going to be going up because deficits are a direct stimulus to the economy. The Federal Reserve will raise interest rates to keep inflation in check. And as we've shown, interest rates affect almost everything financially. The Yale Budget Lab did a study into the matter. They found that after 30 years, a permanent increase in the federal deficit equal to 1% of GDP would cause a $200 increase in annual car loan interest. But it gets worse. There would be a $2,300 increase on the average annual mortgage interest. The same study found that the 1% permanent deficit increase would raise inflation. The average U.S. household would lose $300 to $1,250 in purchasing power annually after 5 years of the deficit increase becoming permanent. Paying off national debt would thus decrease inflation, increase the U.S.'s creditworthiness, and increase investor confidence in the U.S. economy and dollar, thus strengthening the dollar globally. It may seem as though investor confidence in the U.S. is already at an all-time high. Currently, 90% of global foreign exchange transactions use the U.S. dollar, and half of global trade is invoiced in dollars because of its perceived strength and stability. The global use of the dollar in turn strengthens the U.S. economic growth and the equity wealth, as international credit and capital markets prefer to do business with U.S. companies. This occurs mostly because of the U.S.'s guarantees, known as full faith in credit. Wendy Edelberg, a senior economics fellow at the Brookings Institution, explains, full faith in credit basically is meant to give comfort to anyone lending to the U.S. government that the U.S. government will make good on those promises no matter what. It means loaning money to the United States is a safe bet. But economists tracking the U.S.'s future are worried that some global investors are starting to lose faith. In 2023, Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. credit rating, citing the growing national debt as a problem. The frequent fights in Congress about raising or refusing to raise the debt ceiling didn't help either. Refusing to raise the ceiling would basically mean default on some debt obligations, thus directly undermining the full faith in credit system. The downgrade was from AAA to AA+, In 2025, it was followed by a downgrade from Moody's, who changed the U.S.'s credit rating from AAA to AA1. This was a big blow to international perceptions of U.S. creditworthiness. Even though the downgrade was small, it was the first time that Moody's had rated the U.S. as anything less than perfect since 1917. And that's not the only worrying sign for global faith in the U.S. dollar. The dollar's share of global reserves has been steadily decreasing since a peak in the late 90s. In 1999, the dollar represented 70% of global reserves, while in 2024, it represented only 58%. The more investor confidence in the U.S. drops, the more interest rates on the debt rise. The more interest...
But you know, YouTube already has the age verification. So if you're under 18 and the AI detects that you're under 18, you might not be able to watch my channel anymore. And you have to, and because it's gonna ask you for your face, like you might have to identify that you're not under 18. And you might have to show ID and stuff. Hi, Sean B. Was eating dinner until you turn 18. That's for everyone. I think TikTok has done the same thing, age verification. But it's based on what you watch as well. So it depends what you watch. If you watch everything that's it's based on what you watch as well. So if you watch cartoonish shit, then it might detect that you're under 18. You know what? Lord. Oh, it's already detect you already? But it's good though, because it's for your safety. Yeah, I don't watch that shit either. I don't watch no cartoon shit. I watch true crime and stuff like that. I watch people cursing and stuff like that. No, they can't get sued because that's the government. It's by law they have to do that now, Sean B. They just following the law because TikTok is doing it as well. They just following the law, Sean B. It's for the kids. You could recommend it if it's not childish. That could be an 18 plus channel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, if it's about scams, then children shouldn't be watching that. So yeah. But your last question is, if do I have a chat people could go on and talk? Yes, but that's for 18 and plus. It won't let you in if you're not 18 and plus. So is in the description on my channel description. So you have to go on my channel and check for the description. It's got action for your birthday and everything. That's not gonna ask for ID, it's gonna ask for your day of birthday. Discord hasn't done yet. Who has done it? I know Facebook is gonna start doing it soon. YouTube already has done it. Instagram has done it. Yeah. TikTok has done it. It's a lot of social medias. Yeah. No. Don't say your age. Yeah, don't say it, especially if there's people here. My dog is gonna be 8. So 8 times 7 is 56. And now you gotta be 18 to get monetized. So yep. So if you have your own channel and you're not 18, gotta wait until your 18th birthday to be monetized. Cause you can't pay taxes if you're not 18. I know, but they following the law, Sean B. So yep, that's their new policy now. Yeah, because you can't pay taxes. Legally, you can't work until you're 18. Right, Sean P? Legally, you can't work full time until you're 18. That's the law. You didn't know that? And that might change even soon. They might change it to 21 because Donald Trump. He wants to change everything to 21, going to the military and everything. How you doing? Yeah. You good? That's good. But I'm in my 30s, so I don't have to worry about that. They even say when before you even turn on Grand Theft Auto 6, you have to do age verification. That they're not letting people just children play. They don't want us talking to minors. You know we got pervies, Sean B. But Grand Theft Auto's not coming out to next year. So if you're 18 by then, you should be fine. Oh, I gotta charge my phone. I would do it for the kids. Children shouldn't be on social media anyways. They should be playing with toys and watching cartoons. Especially like little kids. I didn't really get my first TV till I was 16. 16 years old. That's when I was 16. Everybody give me a thumbs up, please like. I was 16 years old. That's when my mom got us cable and everything and a TV. Yep. Yep. In 2009, that's when I started watching Monday Night Raw. But now everything's going to streaming. I'm gonna have to get cable again because the pay-per-views is going to ESPN. You heard Sean B? So I hope you feel better, bro. I something for back pain and neck pain too. Smoke some weed and your back will feel better. If you have any. I know back pain is the worst. What is it, your lower back, your upper back? You probably pulled a muscle or something. I don't know. Yep. I hate some laws too. That's the only thing I could take, Sean B, is Tylenol. Anything else I cannot take because. Oh, you can't smoke weed because you're too young. Alright, that makes sense. Some same or ibuprofen. Let's see how we take Tylenol. Wow. Hope you feel better. Yeah, you gotta wait. So if you took time, you gotta wait every 8 hours. Wow. No, I'm allergic to pine. I'm allergic to most trees. I get allergies. That's true. I usually wait 12 hours just to be safe. Guys, I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back later. What time is it now? Okay, I'll be back like in a half an hour. Thank you for joining us.